I'm not a fan of Google.
Oh, are you a Firefox user?
A little bit, John turned me to the dark side.
Oh no, my man's DuckDuckGo and Firefox.
Yep.
Next thing, I've been getting a lot of hate for the Google. People always like, oh man, I gotta like restart my computer to get on this Google Meet. It's like, come on, man. I already feel bad that I'm inviting you on a Google Meet. Don't bring me down. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Without a Roadmap. This is the podcast for product people who don't know all the answers. My name is Yonas, joined by my co-host, Cameron Curry. Steph Curry with the shot in the building.
Guys, switching it up on the intro. I like it. Fresh off the Lakers 17th championship, the best franchise to ever, best sports organization ever assembled, and they're just the best. But today, in terms of topics, last week on episode 2 of the product Mythbusters, we kind of talked about like the day-to-day responsibilities of a PM and what they do. And how they work with other people. It's not just ideating new features or solely focusing on roadmap and ignoring customer interest. It's a whole bunch of different things. You can tune into that episode if you haven't tuned in already. But today we wanted to talk about pretty much like the skills, or the hard and soft skills, kind of the myths of what a product manager needs from both of those perspectives. And then we'll end with kind of how there's a kind of a trend going on about how you should define the type of product person you are. So I want to talk about how Yonas and myself view that type of definition. How about you start us off, Yonas?
So one of the things that I hear a lot and, constantly kind of think about is the fact that PMs, or the role of a PM, is, a combination of like UX designer, UX researcher, marketer, project manager. That's I don't know. I wouldn't even say that this is a myth or a misconception, but it's like a really interesting way in which people kind of conceptualize the role of product management. And I thought it was worth diving into a little bit because, it's really interesting for me because it kind of, in some cases, is the truth in my role, but I do kind of have an interesting thought on it more holistically. So first off, like most things in the PM role, it's going to vary from industry to industry, from, or seed stage startup PM to enterprise level PM. All of this is going to really impact how your role is on a day-to-day, whether you're really focused on UX research and project management, or if you're just solely kind of contributing to one button on a website and focused on optimizing that individual piece as on a day-to-day basis. So from our perspective at Parlor, which is, a seed stage startup, on the up and up, us PMs, we were the 4th and 5th hires at the company, or 5th and 6th after the co-founders. So essentially number 1 and 2. And it was pretty interesting, the reason why Keith, the CEO, decided to bring 2 PMs on. And a lot of it kind of was around the idea that PMs wear a ton of hats to begin with. As a product manager, you have to be able to really think quickly on your feet. I think there's like a general idea that PMs are kind of, oftentimes masters of none. We kind of juggle many different tasks on a day-to-day basis. So the idea of bringing on 2 PMs who could support them on the product marketing front, the marketing front, the sales front, the UX front, as well as, products and project management, was super appealing to them. Bringing on these people who are used to juggling many different tasks was something that they needed at the time. So that's kind of how we are in our role. But like I said, a lot of PMs are not focused on, all those different areas on a daily basis in the same way that we are, because we work at a, earlier stage company. And for those folks, I like to think of the PM role as, a facilitator. I'm not a Lakers fan. I'm really upset that the Celtics didn't get their chance to play them in the finals, but
I'll use, anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll save that conversation for another episode. But I like to think of PM on a team as like the LeBron James. You know, they're as an individual very valuable, but they're able to really, a good PM is really able to elevate everybody around them. So, namely the UX designers, the project managers, the marketing folks, the engineers. By when the role isn't necessarily the same as a UX designer's role, there's still tons of overlap. But the PM is actually able to make their job easier by providing really clear insights on the user research they've been doing, an understanding of how to approach different problems for the engineers, writing out the engineering tasks or stories in a concise way that's easy to understand, which will reduce the QA time for the features they're working on, and so on. So it's, individual contributor, but elevates everybody around them. Long story short, that's my thought.
Yeah, I like it a lot actually, especially the Lakers shout out.
Yeah,
Back to like
don't
the
let that get to your head.
to like the original like three things we kind of listed out, like UX designers, marketers, and project managers. I would say like while a product person can like dabble their hands in multiple different roles and wear multiple different hats, I wouldn't say having one person, like a PM specifically, since that's who we are and who we're talking about, do all three or four of those different roles. So product, UX, marketing, and project management is probably not the best. It's because I mean, we're feeling it now. As you start to get bigger and bigger, the team starts to grow. You're starting to get more customers, more projects in the pipeline. Like you can't do it all. And so, like once you hire those other people, or start to bring other people into the team, and or just maybe sell people from the current team into more specialized roles, you do start to see a difference in how having those extra people on the team help elevate everybody else's role as well. So, for example, we hired more sales folks recently over the summer, and that dramatically changed our business just because as product people, you kind of default to doing what you love, which is working on products, building new
Yeah.
features, going over designs, thinking of new ideas to build. And so, like, as you get busier and busier, your default is going to be what you love to do most. And sometimes you kind of leave behind the marketing stuff, the project management stuff, or sometimes even the sales stuff, since we are wearing those hats as well. Like for us, we were supposed to be writing a blog a week when we first started. I don't think I think I've written one blog this year.
Funny. Yeah. I mean, we hired a content marketer.
Yeah. I
So
mean, but even when she started, we were supposed to be doing one a week still.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was a combination of them finding, work that was, better for our time. But I think it was an interesting, like, because we're selling to product managers, that's
Mhm.
part of who we sell to. So it made sense to have PMs on our team writing the content that they might read. But that might have been a unique case. I don't know too many other PMs who were writing blogs for their company on the regular.
Yeah, but to you, Pro, I do agree with how PMs can help elevate everybody else on the team. Just because, as someone working in product, you're working so cross functionally with everybody, literally in the company, from sales, marketing, engineers, designers, executives, project managers, operation folks. Like everything, kind of, or most things go centered around to the, especially in SaaS companies, go are centered around the product that you're building and selling. And so, as a product person, um, it's easier to wear those hats because you're living the product day in, day out, and you know everything about the product. Hopefully, you know a lot about the market and the personas you're selling to. So it's easier for you to wear these different hats and speak to different type of disciplines within a company because you're just so central to everything going on.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool. Going on to the second point, being this is probably one of the biggest things that is always talked about and kind of debated is how much technical knowledge you need to have to be a product person. I know a lot of companies, I wouldn't say a lot, but I do know some companies that require you to have a computer science degree or require you to have like 2 years of being a software engineer before you can actually become a product manager. Um, in
They
my
just put
person,
that there to rule out folks like me.
Yeah, yeah, folks like
Like,
both of us.
yeah.
In my personal experience, especially over the last, I would say 4 to 5 months, as I've worked more closely with the engineers here at Parlor, I don't really have any um, technical knowledge rather than some basic SQL queries that I learned in a semester at BU in college that I don't even use now. But I would say for the type of product that we're working on, you probably don't need as much specific technical knowledge in terms of like actually being able to write code, write SQL queries, write API calls, and all that other fun jazz that our good folks on the software engineering land do. It's more so just about just learning how, or just understanding how all the puzzle pieces fit together in the puzzle. So you don't need to know the in-depth details about this line of code is gonna affect these other 10 lines of code because of a comma or something like that. It's more so just learning how the pieces fit together and trying to speak the same language with your software engineers. And so you can
Mm.
understand some of the limitations, possibilities, and some of even their frustrations with the requirements you kind of hand off to them that could be um, probably at some cases impossible to build in the time you want it built. So it's more so just understanding the language, trying to get on the same page and speak the same language, and just knowing how all the pieces fit together. Less so knowing how to actually code what they're coding. So I feel like
Mm.
sometimes I feel like you can run into a trap if you have like a wealth of software engineering experience or knowledge of how to write code or the stuff you're working on. You can sometimes get into some debates. You can sometimes overstep your boundaries in terms of like they're the software engineers, you're the product person. You shouldn't be trying to tell them exactly how to write their lines of code because that's what their job
Yeah.
is.
Like there could be some bias in how to write something like, oh, we have to do it the right way. But, a product person should ground you in understanding of like, I don't care how, like, if it's not the right way, this is the way we need to do it now so that we can get this out because we have these priorities in place and we need this based on a timeline.
Mm,
It's like you need somebody that's grounded in the product strategy. And I think, yeah, if you're involved in both product strategy and writing the code, you might veer off and kind of take your own way, and
yeah.
that's not always
I
great.
mean, think about like if you reverse it and say an engineer was trying to overstep, or not overstep, but just trying to do some of the product stuff, which they do sometimes, which is awesome. But like if they're the ones telling you like, hey, you should write this story a different way, like, hey, the product direction or the product strategy, like while that it is good feedback and good back and forth between the two teammates, you kind of reverse the roles. And if you're a product person trying to overstep and say, hey, you need to write this line of code in XYZ way because this is the best way, I can see both sides of how that can be annoying as both a product person and an engineer.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely why we're separate. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to a technical product manager and hear like how much different the two roles, like the product
Yeah.
manager versus technical product manager. Maybe we'll have one on in a
Mhm.
later episode.
Yeah. I do think it's like fascinating just talking with them about how all the pieces fit together in terms of like the whole like architecture, just because you
Mm.
learn how the product is built. And like as you're looking to build new features and doing product priorities and setting more strategy, you kind of know the limitations and possibilities of what you can do in the short term and what you need to kind of build up towards to fulfill the full vision.
Right, right. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Hmm. The last one today, this is pretty interesting that I've kind of seen. I don't know about you over the last couple of months, especially like on LinkedIn and all the product Twitter is about like defining the type of product person you are. So like you can have, like you just said, technical product manager, a growth PM, core
Mhm.
PM, a lifecycle PM. There's a
Oh,
whole bunch of different types
I
now.
missed this conversation. Am I not in the PM loop, the PM social media loop? I'm in
Maybe.
networking groups, so maybe what am I guess I'm not on Twitter. That's probably the problem.
Like I saw one blog, I think I would say about a couple months ago. It was titled "How a Core PM Can Teach a Growth PM and Vice Versa."
A core PM. Is a core PM just that's just like a platform PM, like a general PM?
Yeah, it's pretty much like the core PM. The way they defined it, it's like the core foundation of the product.
Okay.
And then like the growth
All right.
PM is like trying to pull different levers to unlock growth, for lack of a better term, but to unlock
Okay.
more customers, either um, being onboarded or to unlock customers upselling or cross-selling into higher offerings.
Thinking about like the future.
Yeah, the future, and like what kind of like feature gating you can do, limitations you can do to try to
Okay.
increase revenue ultimately, or get more customers on board.
Okay.
And then there's
Yeah.
other ones like technical PM. I'm sure I'm missing.
I mean,
So
what's your title? You're the group PM.
I don't. So in my
Did you
in my
see that on the
opinion,
list?
no, that's more of like a hierarchy. Like you can, like some people do like group PM and they do like a dash or a comma or colon, and it's like growth,
Yeah.
or like life cycle or like core or whatever it could be.
Yeah.
Or like what was another one? There's another one that's like customer experience PM, UX PM. There's a whole bunch of like different types that you can kind of label yourself as. I don't think it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to kind of label yourself as one of those types, because then you kind of like limit yourself to only focusing on that specific area of the product.
Unless that's what you want to do.
Yeah, it's totally up to you. But my personal opinion, I think you shouldn't label yourself or give yourself a type, because you should be able to adapt to the role you're in. So say you're in a growth PM role, and then you get, either there's a reorg or you go to a different job and they don't want you to be a growth PM. They just want you to be a regular PM. Like, are you going to turn that down because you want the growth in your title, or turn that down because you're not going to be doing the similar things that you did at your previous company?
I could see a growth PM wanting to transition into like a growth revenue or like, growth operations role like that.
Oh, that's another one. Operations, like a product operations
Operations,
manager.
product ops. Okay. Yeah. Well, what do you think? What do you think you fall under? What would you want to fall under?
I wouldn't want to fall under any.
Any? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you had to choose, if let's, I'm putting you on the spot. What
Hmm.
would you say you are based on your current roles and responsibilities?
Current roles and responsibility. That's a topic for a different episode.
No,
But
just like the type, the type.
it'd probably be, if we're going by the types, a combination right now, a combination of, I would say, operations and core, I would say.
I see that. Operations for sure. You're like you're the quarterback.
Oh, thank you.
But
Yeah,
you
that's
Cam
why.
Newton, you got COVID.
Don't have COVID though.
Cam Curry. That's
Well,
I see the product ops for sure. So for those who don't know, which is anybody that's listening to this not from Parlor, Cam is Cam has kind of stepped into a role where he's more kind of operating the engineering team, kind of making sure that everybody has work, constantly obviously working on, developing new features for us to work on, or like kind of the ideation process, but also kind of project managing all of the different ongoing tasks that we have. So that's why I think that product operations manager, product manager, comma operations makes sense.
comma this, comma that. What about you though?
Yeah. I don't know if this is. I mean, you mentioned it. I'm not quite sure if I've ever seen it, but I see myself falling under the like customer experience PM.
Hmm.
Like I have transitioned more into working closely with existing customers and folks who are in like the late stage of our sales pipeline to better understand exactly, for the customers, how they're getting value from our products, where they're experiencing any snags, and for the prospects, trying to understand exactly what they came to the market looking for, how Parlor and its value resonates with them and their team. And the idea is that, I have to condense all these thoughts into learnings that we can use to apply to our, roadmap, or kind of the way that we're thinking about building Parlor. So, and I really enjoy that because I enjoy talking to people. A lot of PMs, are sick of the meetings that they already have internally and don't want any more, but I'm constantly on calls with, outside of internal calls with customers or prospects, and trying to make sure that I have the best understanding possible of kind of the the environment and kind of the market that we're in. So I don't know if I'd want to typecast myself to that, but I
Right.
think that makes the most sense. And as a team at Parlor, we kind of want the customer success, organization to live under products. I think that's becoming a growing trend, and as a result, having a PM like myself who's kind of taking the charge in organizing those thoughts and the process around categorizing all of them is core to what we're trying to do. So that's where I'm at.
I like it. I like it. Other than like the customer experience, operations, core, growth type of product managers, I also saw another blog that boiled down product people into three, I would say, categories instead of types. Hopefully, I'm remembering all three. I know the first one was like the innovators. Those are the ones that like are in your early stage startups, like thinking of new ways to build products or just new features that are like disruptive. So we have innovators, we have builders who are kind of similar to innovators, but they're not the same. They're more so like taking the vision and then building it out, or reverse engineering the vision that was set and then building out the product in that way with that vision in mind. And then the third one were tuners, where you already have a mature product, an established product, and you more so refine it to make it even better.
Mm,
So those are the
I
three
like.
I saw on the article, which were pretty fascinating to me.
I feel like most people would want to be a builder, like building for the future, doing the new sexy work that you're going to be able to do a big release and get teams involved for announcing it. Yeah, I don't
Or
know. Maybe
you don't want to be the Steve Jobs and be the innovator and think of the things that no
well,
one's ever thought of and bring them to market.
actually, maybe that's what I meant. Yes, yeah, yeah. But I don't know of too many people who are like, looking forward to kind of trying to optimize a scroll bar and
Some people like that stuff
but
though. They like digging in full story and just looking at full story for five
yeah,
hours a day, every day.
running different queries and mode analytics to
AB,
yeah,
AB script.
hotjar,
Yeah.
oh man.
But I thought that article was pretty cool, and they gave like people who represent those three. Well, mainly for the first two, they didn't really have people for like the tuners, just because you can find those at like any, mostly either like Series C, B company or like a enterprise IPO company. Whereas like obviously the innovator type they had was like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, people that
Yeah.
like think of the things that need to be built for society to move forward or just to progress. And then the builders, they didn't really have too many people like that came to mind, but I knew exactly what they were talking about though.
I feel like a tuner is this could be complete BS, but the feeling I get is a tutor is often somebody who's working at the company and like has gets an internal promotion from like a CSM or a sales role into a product role, and
Mm,
works as a tuner because they have like a lot of expertise in using the tool themselves and understanding the customer's experience with it, and they've kind of transition to this PM role and try and make it better. And that's like a good entry level PM role
yeah,
is
yeah. So I was gonna say, like, do you think all entry level PMs, like their first PM job, you're probably gonna be a tuner for the most part? I just have to like learn
yeah,
how you do product.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Mhm.
Which one would you want to be out of the three? I think we already rolled out tuner. So
No, I mean, nothing wrong with the tuners out there. I'm still a tuner, but I think innovator, it has a nice ring to it.
yeah,
I mean,
I
who
think
doesn't want to be Steve Jobs?
right.
But
I think everybody
uh,
wants to be an innovator at some point in their career.
mhm.
But it is hard to think to be an innovator and just to do the crazy things that the iPhone has come to
I don't know.
iPhone and iOS.
you have to be convincing. You know, you have to you have to be able to present present the problem you're addressing really well. And if you're convincing enough, then I guess the job isn't that hard. You get the builders to take it from there. And
I mean, but like with so many different products and software and SaaS companies now, it's like, how do you identify something that's truly unique? I mean, obviously there's going to be more stuff as we get further along in the time of the world. I don't know how you would say that, but like as we start to progress, there's going to be new startups, obviously, that come out with new offerings that are deemed innovative. Like, how do you, like TikTok? It wasn't really innovative. It was kind of like Vine back in the day for the OGs listening. But
it's their algorithm that's innovative. Like the social media short video format isn't innovative in itself, but the way in which they present their content is what's innovative about them. So I think it's going to be a lot of people kind of taking a page from an old playbook, whether it's a SaaS or a social media platform, and just finding ways to innovate within those existing kind of frameworks. So I think that's fine. I'm happy to not have a CRM for my, I don't know. There's a CRM for everything. It's like, how many more ideas do we got?
I mean, I think the big wave coming up is going to be a whole bunch of new tools and companies coming out for like the productivity collaboration space, since more and more people are going to be working remotely and people are always concerned about time because it's the one thing you can't get back. It's like, how do you make people's more time more efficient? How do you collaborate across the globe where you can't do an in-person whiteboard session?
Right. Or like, managing the remote workforce, and there's already a bunch of tools for that. Exactly. But that's the thing. As the world changes, as those kind of external forces make change our daily life, there's always going to be a need for software to solve the new problems that are created. So that's exciting in and of itself, is not even knowing what problem is going to arise that requires some sort of software solution.
Right.
So there's always going to be a need for innovators. It's okay. The innovator who's listening, you won't be without a job.
Cool. So I think that about wraps it up for us today. Hope everyone enjoyed episode 3 of the Product Mythbusters, talking about some of the skills, some of the myths and misconceptions, and trying to define if you should define yourself as a specific type of product manager, or if you shouldn't. So we'll be back next week with episode 4. I believe it's the last episode of this series. We may have 5. I'm not sure. I should know this.
See what the people want.
Yeah. If you want to encore, let us know and we'll produce episode 5.
Yes. And closing note, please like, share, just spread the word out. We're putting out some content. Make sure you let everybody know.